If you'd have been at Canyon Ferry Reservoir the last week in June in 2022, you would have seen this lovely sunrise and about 85 boats staged up out in the water, ready to compete in the 2022 Sunrise Walleye Tournament. This tournament is one of a series. I believe there's 4 in this series. Canyon Ferry is probably the biggest one, and then they do Tiber, Fresno, and also Crooked Creek up at Fort Peck. There are 2 big series of walleye tournaments throughout Montana. The other one is focused mostly, I think, on the eastern part of the state, and Fort Peck in particular. I think they do Hell Creek and Rock Creek, a big event there that's the biggest, called the Governor's Cup. This is footage here at the boat ramp. It's amazing. These guys show up, most of them around 5:30, I think, but you can show up as early as 4:30 to check in. They inspect the boats and you make sure their live wells are clear. And then it's amazing how fast 85 boats can go in the water if the people driving know how to back up their trailers, and you've got guy in the driver's seat ready to go. All these boats were in the water, plus all the support, and then just the regular traffic from all the other fishermen just either going to watch the tournament, watch the start, or just go fishing. These tournaments are really fun. This one, is a pretty big tournament in terms of prize money. The top prize is $10,000 to first place. And so these guys take it pretty seriously. There's some other smaller tournaments that happen at Canyon Ferry, like the Broadwater Gun Club does one. And then there's some others that are fun to do, and, it's not quite as serious. And it's a good time to get out there with kids and teach them how to fish. I've fished maybe 6 of these tournaments over the years with my kids. We were never very competitive, but it's really fun to go watch all these guys fish. You end up hanging out with them and talking about fishing, and you can pick up a ton of technique and just learn a lot about fishing in general. It's just a really good time. You can see the boats putting in here at the boat ramp. That red boat that's docked at the dock there, the bigger one, that's the starter boat. And so all the competitors go out and kind of mix up in the bay. Everybody knows their order in the lineup. Everyone's given a number, and you know that you're after, let's say you're boat 14, and boat 14 goes after 23. So boat 14 goes out, looks for 23, and 23 looks for whoever's in front of them, and they all manage to somehow get in a line for the official start. The teams are 2-person teams. Most of them are two guys, but they do have mixed couple, which is often husband-wife, but not always, and also adult child, which is often, father-son, but not always there too. The overall prize was $10,000, but there were also prizes for top adult child, top mixed couple, and then big fish of the day could be either big walleye, big pike, big carp, just to keep things fun. You can see the lake is pretty full this year already. It was at its lowest point that I'd ever seen it Memorial Day. I guess they had prepared for the amount of runoff that they got suddenly, and immediately before the tournament, the lake had been filling up at a foot a day, and then had slowed to 6 inches a day as the runoff slowed down. But a lot of changes in the lake right before the tournament. A lot of debris at the south end of the lake here. Some people did turn and go south, I noticed, but I know there was a lot of junk down there to get hooks and lines caught up in. So I'm not sure where the winners ended up fishing, and they probably won't tell you. The competitors have live wells on the boat that keeps water circulating around the fish. The rule is you have to bring in the fish alive, and they have to be released alive, and they have to show that they're going to stay alive. So when the competitors come in, they'll have some fish in their live well, and they'll bring them into weigh stations. There's, I think, just 2 in this tournament, one here at this boat ramp, and then one halfway up the lake at White Earth Campground. And so competitors need to make sure that they don't keep their fish in the live wells for too long, because if they bring in dead fish or fish that don't survive release, they don't count. So a lot of times if someone catches a big fish, it goes right in the live well, and there's a mad race to get it right over to the weigh station so they can get the fish measured, released, and so it'll count towards their weight. If you release a fish and it dies there on the spot or can't be revived or released, it counts against your total of 5 fish, but you don't get to count any of the weight. So the fishermen do everything within their power to make sure that all the fish are healthy and released in a state that allows them to stay alive. Winners in this year's tournament were Colby Tognetti from Lewistown and Kyle Vine from Vida, who took first place with 33.42 pounds. So that's 5 fish, and the estimated weight based on the measurement of the fish was 33.42 pounds, 5 fish per day, 10 total fish. And then second place was Gordy Matson and Kevin Helling from Ennis, and they came in with 26.49 pounds. And third place, this is the overall winners, were Rob Mott and Dustin Flack from Bozeman, and they came in with 26.21 pounds. In the other categories, the adult child, it doesn't have to be relatives, but it's a one adult and one child under 18. The winners there were Owen Wilcox and Zyke Gordon, and then second place was Blake Quansney and Chris Quansney. And then third place, I couldn't tell on the score sheet if it was Sean Kincaid and Steve Kincaid or if it was Triton Dombrovitsky and Mike Dombrovitsky, because on the score sheet, it instead of saying AC for adult child, it said ACM. I wasn't sure what that meant. But anyway, and then in the mixed couple, the winners were Rhea and Corey Jones, and then second place was Savannah Mook and Brian Mook, and then third place was Cameron Nisdell and Katie Bertolino. Some other real close finishers. There were several in the 12s. I know Lonnie and Christy Wirtz were in the running. They had some trouble with the boat and lost 3 hours of fishing, and so lost one big fish at the boat. Didn't get their 5th fish on Sunday. They would have been right there in it. But that's kind of how it goes with tournament fishing. There's always a story. I've lost a couple big fish right at the boat tournament day, and that's what keeps you coming back the next year, knowing that you were right there. If you'd have caught that last big fish, you would have gotten first place. So these boats are really amazing. They just seems like the motors just keep getting bigger and bigger. I saw one that had a 400 horse motor. I used to think my 200 horse was just crazy amount of power. My boat goes about 50 miles an hour with a 200 horse motor. I'm not sure how fast the fastest of these boats are going with 400 horse motors, but probably getting up into the 60s. It takes a lot of power to make those boats go just a few miles an hour faster as you get up into the bigger motors. Of course, the most exciting part of the tournament is when the boats all take off at the beginning. As mentioned, the faster the boats are going, 60 some miles an hour. They might even have some that go in the 70s. And they all are headed to their spot. They want to get there first so that they can, kind of claim their territory and get on the fish. Most tournament anglers will spend at least a day or two pre-fishing. If you're not familiar with the lake, if it's not your home waters, you might even do a little bit more than that. Try to locate the fish generally. Where are they in the lake, and then what particular spot on the lake, within the general area. Let's say maybe there's some more fish down south, but where, so they'll spend several days trying to get tuned into where the fish are and figure out what they're biting on, figure out the presentation that works best for the fish at that time. And then, it can all change overnight with weather or, just clouds versus no clouds. So really there's so many variables. And these guys had figured out most of them, I guess. I don't know how they do it, but, I see guys that'll come and consistently catch, a couple of big fish. Sometimes, like the winning team won't catch all their fish, but, they'll just come in and catch, 2 or 3 big fish, or, one big fish will put them, right in the running just on day one, and then they'll catch a few more. So, on Canyon Ferry, it's not like Fort Peck where there's lots of big fish. There's a handful of big fish in Canyon Ferry compared to Fort Peck. This was just such a beautiful time of day to be out. Like I said, when you're out on the water, it just is electric. You're all milling about trying to find the boat you need to follow out at the start. The sun's coming up. It's really nice on tournament day, if the weather's like this, and I've been I fished at Hell Creek once, and we had 4-foot waves, and regardless of the weather, generally these guys are going to put the hammer down and go top speed. So it's nice to know that the water is going to be flat calm when they finally blow the horn and say get going. And here you see all the boats taking off. This is the first round. This was Sunday morning, and so everyone's headed to their spot. As mentioned before, the boats will put the throttle all the way up, and then trim the boat. Try to get every last bit of speed out of their boat. Some of these guys were running all the way to the north end of the lake. It might be 15, 20-minute ride, depending on how fast their boat is. But wherever the fish are, it might be worth it's, I guess, 40 minutes total of driving, versus then you see this on the left here, one boat headed south when all the other boats are headed to the north. But you just need to get those 5 fish. So you're just trying to strategize, where is the best fishing happening, where can I catch the best fish, and if that means spending 40 minutes of your day driving instead of fishing, that's the thing to do. When the fishermen get to their designated spot, they're going to have a plan of what they're going to do. Maybe they'll start with jigging. Maybe they'll, cast jigs close to shore in the morning when the sun isn't bright, and then when it gets a little sunnier, maybe they'll head a little deeper or switch to a different technique, maybe pulling some crankbaits or bottom bouncing. Just all several different ways that people fish, and then all the variables of depth and a different time of day. If it was overcast, you might be able to fish a little shallower. If it's really bright sun, you might head a little deeper. And then if it's windy, some of these guys will head to a shore where the waves are really pounding the beach and stirring up mud. And the walleye tend to like muddy water a lot of times. You're going to be looking at the temperature of the water, temperature, depth. Of course, the variables like we mentioned earlier, where the river comes in at the south end and it brings in a lot of sticks and branches and trees and grass and all kinds of things that can get caught up on your lures. But the fish are there. These guys will figure out a way to fish there. But this was really mid-lake, northern lake. Not as many people down south, and so there was quite a bit of running to the north end. It really is fun when you are punching it at the start. You following behind other boats. You're seeing, oh, this boat behind me is catching up, or I'm catching up to this boat, and where are all the other boats going? And you kind of getting an idea, where's everyone fishing. Perhaps some of the fishermen take it seriously enough that they try to figure out where the winning boats were fishing if they did well on Saturday, and maybe they'd use some of that intel. As mentioned, throughout the day, the boats will run in as they catch fish and take them to the weigh station. Here you see a boat coming in. This was I just went down to the where they were weighing fish at the Silos Marina, and so the boats will come in. They'll have, 1 or 2 fish. Usually they don't, wait until they have all 5 fish to bring them in, because they don't want them to, as mentioned earlier, they don't want them to get unhealthy in there. But sometimes they'll, bring in a couple fish. First, they'll just head to one of the weigh stations. Someone will flag them down and catch the boat, and then they'll give the folks there their scorecard. And then you'll see here in a little bit, after they give them the scorecard, they'll take the weigh station folks will take a little trough that they'll measure the fish in. And I think the fish have to be, I think it was 14 inches. They have to be over 14 inches. You see the gentleman on the left there. He's got the little trough there, and on the bottom of that, there's a ruler. So he'll put that on the boat, and then the guys will bring up their fish one at a time, and he'll measure to see how long they are. And then the gal with the scorecard there, she'll write down how long the fish were. They could bring in as many fish as they want. So they, once you don't have to, you don't get just the 5 that you measure. You could measure, a dozen fish on any given day and just keep upgrading your fish. But they do all have to be alive. So any that failed to get released successfully would count against their score. But most of them are, most of the fishermen are very good at keeping the fish so they can be released successful.
What's the rules? Is it 2 fish over 15 per boat? water at any given time.
Right.
And you can bring me 100 fish.
Right. How many?
This tournament. Yeah, that guy I'm gonna guess.
And here you see the team dropped off their fish, got them measured, headed back out. Hopefully they'll catch some more fish and some better ones, get them upgraded. So then at the end of the day, everyone has to be back. Depending on, like I said earlier, there's different rounds or different flights. The Sunday morning you might go in the first flight, and so you have to be back, relevant to when you left. So, because it takes, quite a while to get all the boats off. So the boats that leave last get to come in last as well. So, but, all the boats at the end of the day, they're all coming in, getting their last fish measured, and hopefully, getting all 5 fish for the day. But the boat that left the very last from the start gets to come in, later than the boat that went off first. But it is, as opposed to during the day, you can see all the boats here that are either at the beach getting fish weighed or waiting for someone to get their, to open up for one of the teams that weighs the fish to open up. They'll either mill about in the bay there and then come in, get their fish weighed. And then if you look in the background there, you can see all the boats pulling, or all the trailers pulling in, just like when they put their boats in the water. It's always impressive to me that you can get so many boats out of the water. These guys will have their boats out of the water and back over to the station where they'll have the whiteboard where the scores get posted, and they'll get all that done in just a matter of minutes. But this process goes on for probably about half an hour, 40 minutes, as the teams return. If you're way at the north end of the lake, you're not going to push it down to the very last minute. So you might actually have, a few minutes, 5-10 minutes of fishing left by the time you get to the boat ramp, but it's not worth, stopping again to fish somewhere. So you just come in, get your fish weighed, and then get your boat taken out, buttoned up, get it cleaned up a little bit, and then head over to where they're doing all the calculation of the scores and the weights. And then you'll see in a little bit here where they start putting scores on the whiteboard. So this is, this happens, again, it's Saturday, Sunday. So this process happens on Saturday, and then it repeats on Sunday. But of course, on Sunday, all the awards are given. I had to, I lived down in Bozeman, and this was up at Canyon Ferry. So we had to get home. We had our camper, had our boat with us, I should say. And so we didn't stay all the way through the whole award ceremony. But, it's a good time. Sitting and watching the scores come up. You just kind of sit. If you're in the contest, you wait for your score. You kind of know where you're at, and you're watching all the other scores come up on the board to see, did we get into the money? Did we, were we even in competition, or who went out there and really found the fish? It's always amazing. Sometimes when people will catch, you'll see there'll be people on any given day won't catch any fish at all, and then half the boats will come in and they'll have 5 fish, and then there'll be a few boats that caught 5 big fish, or 5 fish including some really big fish. But always exciting to sit and watch the scores get posted. Of course, they're serving drinks, and they've got food, and you can see there underneath the pavilion there that's where the whiteboard is, and they'll have all the team names written on the board, and you see all the teams just kind of waiting to see who came in with a lot of fish, and of course. There's always that tournament when you don't do so good. Instead of writing a 0, they'll just give you a little smiley face. I know I had a couple smiley faces in a couple of the tournaments I fished in. So, but just a good inspiration to come back the next year and try to get in the money. We did place once in the adult child, my son Oscar and I, here at the Canyon Ferry Tournament. So that worked out. But you get yourself a plaque, maybe some prize money. And of course, as always, you see the volunteers there that put together the events. Walleyes Unlimited, I think, is big into all these events in one capacity or another, and then some of the local, organizations help put them on. But it's really all about the volunteers. If you didn't have so many people willing to, spend their time, even if they're not fishing, to come in and, tend bar or cook food or enter scores into the computer. You just couldn't have these great tournaments. And of course, it's just fishing, but being humans as we are, we can turn anything into competition. So hope you've enjoyed this summary of the 2022 Sunrise Walleye Festival Tournament. If you're a competitor, congrats. Hope you had a great tournament. If you didn't get in the money, hope you catch the big fish next year. And I hope you enjoyed the video.